Hello everybody and welcome to the Fat Bike Show. It is episode 8 and thank you so much for your continuing support. You may have noticed that the channel's now monetized, so there are going to be a few adverts popping up. So I'm sorry if they're a bit annoying, but it really helps me with the channel and means that I can keep producing the shows. Couple of things to get started. Thank you once again to MTB Tribe who had me as a guest on their podcast. I presume if you have trouble sleeping or toddlers that needed to calm down a bit, you could just play them that and it would help. So it was really kind of them to have me on. If you haven't listened to it, why not go and check it out? The link is in the description below. Other things, if you see some of the parts of this video as standalone videos also on the channel, it's because some of them actually are quite handy, quick reference if they're how-to videos, etc. But you will always see them here first. So what have we got for you in today's show? Well, actually there are 3 separate features which answer questions you didn't know you wanted answered. How good is that? We've got how many CO2 canisters, those little CO2 canisters, how many of those does it take to inflate a fat bike tyre? And as I've been working on trying to get clickbait, here's my pitch, pay attention. How many CO2 canisters to inflate a fat bike tyre? The results will amaze you. How's that? Good? You want to watch that now? Okay, we've got Trail Heroes, my favourite segment, where we say thank you to volunteers who help build and maintain the trails that we all enjoy. I've got a section called Mini Pump versus a fat bike tyre. So, a lot of people carry a mini pump. Actually, if you're a fat bike rider, is it worth putting in your pack at all? Can it inflate a tyre? That's one of the segments coming up. I'm going to share with you the first time I rode my fat bike in the snow. I've been going on for a year about how great a fat bike is for all terrains, but finally we had one day of snow here in Surrey in the UK, so I'm going to share my adventures out on the fat bike. And the final segment is your tyre gauge lying to you? We debate a lot in the fat bike world about what PSI is best. 11 versus 9 versus 6 versus... All of that's irrelevant if your tyre gauge isn't accurate. This one might genuinely surprise you. How's that for clickbait? Right, let's get on with the show. Have you ever wondered how many CO2 canisters it would take to inflate a fat bike tyre? Stick around, let's find out. Right, first thing to do is to deflate this tyre. So I'm just going to... In fact, I'm going to take out the core just so it deflates a bit quicker. Here we go. I'm running tubeless, obviously. Okay, so there we go. Now, pop that back in there. It's quite cool, you can get an end cap for your valve that actually, built into the cap, is the tool to take the core out. Pretty nifty, I like that. Sits back on there. Right, so this has no pressure. And what's the point of this test? If a lot of people carry CO2 canisters out in their pack or backpack, etc., or even in their pockets, these are all 16 gram. And I myself carry a couple of these, and I've never had to use them out on the trail. I've been really lucky. I've always had a friend who's got a big foot pump or something. And I'm wondering whether we're all carrying these around and it makes no difference. If it takes 10 to inflate the tyre, you're never going to carry 10, so you may as well not carry any. So what I'm going to see is how many of these it takes to inflate this tyre back to, let's say, 5 psi, so effectively it can get you home. So that's what we're not talking about back to full pressure. We're talking about how many of these would you need to carry to be able to inflate the tyre to get you home. So let's find out. this could be the world's most stupid test. That's actually... Okay, do you know what? I'm going to put the gauge on this. This could be the worst video. This could be either the best or the worst how-to video you've ever watched, because this is either going to be the solution. By the way, this is a Maxxis. It's a 4.0 Minion tyre, fat bike tyre. So I've used one 16 gram. I thought I was going to use it. I've used one 16 gram CO2 cartridge, and the pressure using my super accurate gauge is 4 psi. That would get you home. So, useless test. Absolutely useless test. I failed. Well, actually, or have I succeeded? So, regroup, Richard, regroup. So, in this important consumer test, I've established that actually, even with a fat bike tyre, if you're out and you get a puncture, a single 16 gram CO2 canister will inflate your 4.0 tyre back to 4 psi, and that would easily let you finish the ride or get you home. And on that bombshell, back to the studio. Okay, come on, admit it. How many of you thought it would take 3 or 4 of these? Personally, my guess was going to be 3 of these, but just one. So, hey, that's like consumer advice. So, what am I going to do from now on? The practical application of this, I'm going to take 2 of these. They don't weigh much. 2 of these in my pack, so that I can get up to 7-8 psi. Right. Now to my favourite part of the show, and this is where we say thank you to the volunteers who help maintain the trails we love riding. So let's have a look at this week's Trail Heroes. This episode's Trail Heroes are the Dean Trail volunteers who maintain the trails in the Forest of Dean. I've ridden there once. I loved it. I plan to go back the second the lockdown is over. I must admit, I thought there was some big corporate or government resource behind this, but it is entirely maintained by volunteers. They're working in partnership with Forestry England, but it's a very well organised, well motivated committee. They do an amazing job. I just couldn't believe these trails were actually maintained and built by volunteers. So guys, thank you so much. As someone who's ridden there, I think it's wonderful the work you do, and you probably don't hear it enough, but thank you very much. I've just made a donation, and can I suggest to you watching, if you're local to there, make a donation, or why not Google who your local trail builders are. I'm sure there's a volunteer group. Donate money if you can, but probably more importantly, why not give a day of your time and go and help with a dig. This week's Trail Heroes are Dean Trail volunteers. So can you inflate a fat bike tyre using only a mini pump? Let's have a go. Okay, so what's the point of this? I generally carry a pump in my rucksack that's really nifty, fantastic. It's like a mini track pump that you can fold out, put your foot on that section, how does that come out? Oh, there we go. See, that's kind of cool. That's pretty effective. But I am trying to take some weight off the rucksack and not use one if possible. And one of the options is to carry a mini pump. Now, I don't know whether this is going to be able to inflate a fat bike tyre. This is my 4.0 Maxxis Minion tyre. As you can see, there's no pressure in it at all. It's tubeless. It's down to nothing. So let's see how long it takes to use one of these little mini pumps to inflate it. You'd be okay because being a single 50-year-old, although I've got a weak left arm, I have a right arm like a stonemason, so I don't know why. So let's give it a go and inflate a tyre using a mini pump. you've just tuned into OnlyFans, as you know what, it's going in, actually that's, yeah, making progress. I bet this is great television viewing, isn't it? This is what people pay the big bucks to see. I feel like I should be on some sort of Japanese game show. If the camera runs out of battery and doesn't film this, I'm not doing it again. I hope you're making up lots of jokes at home. Okay, so that took a while, and actually that was really hard work. Do you know what? That's got me to probably 3 psi, but that's more than enough. You could ride home on that easily. I think some people are putting these in their pack because they consider it better than nothing, but if you've watched the other video about how effective a CO2 canister is in inflating a fat bike tyre, I don't think that's worth just even having in your pocket. For the weight of that, just put in another or a second or a CO2 canister, which inflates the tyre much quicker and far more effectively. So should you use or can you use a mini pump? You can, but I wouldn't. Okay, so that's the second surprise of this episode. I didn't think the mini pump would be easy. I didn't think it'd be easy to inflate a fat bike tyre, but I thought it would be a lot easier than that. I mean, you'd be knackered out on the trail. And as I just said it in the video, you'd be mad to carry one of those mini pumps when you could just put one of these in your pocket. Even if you don't carry a pack, one of these with a little adapter on it is definitely the way to go.
Welcome viewers to Dicking About. My name is Grant and here we have a very, very excited fat biker. Here he is.
It's snowing! Yes, it's snowing! Finally in the UK. Right, let's go and hit the snowy trails.
How about that for a dismount?
I love fat bikes.
So, I spent all these episodes telling you
You don't have to ride a fat bike in the snow. They're capable, they can do everything. But I gotta tell you, when you're actually out in the snow on one, they're a hell of a lot of fun. Let's get going. Fantastic.
I hope you enjoyed that short film. Finally, after having a fat bike for a couple of years, ridden it in the snow, absolutely loved it. I mean, it was wonderful. I'm just gutted that we had one day of snow, so but I hope you enjoyed that. Right, this is the final section, and this is continuing our trend of the most wonderful clickbait. Is your tyre pressure gauge lying to you? You'll be surprised. Watch this. How was that? Was that good? Go on. Is your tyre pressure gauge lying to you? I'm going to find out whether it is and tell you why that's really important. So I've come to this beautiful location, this tropical island, because I just wanted a bit of sun. Weather's been miserable recently. This is going to look so stupid if I haven't done the green screen with the palm trees, but hey, we'll soldier on. Why am I doing this little experiment? Tyre pressure is very, very important to fat bikes. They're run at a low PSI, as you know if you're watching this show, and there have been lots of forums recently where people have been giving great advice about, hey, I run mine at 11 PSI, and someone else saying, oh, I always favour, and it's between 7 and 8 for me, and someone saying, oh, the sweet spot's 9. Now, that's great advice, as long as you know exactly what the tyre pressure is. Because if you don't, and it's not accurate, then all of that advice is completely irrelevant. So I thought I'd do a little experiment. Most people will have a track pump. You might have a digital tyre gauge, or you might have invested in this, which is a low pressure tyre gauge. It only goes up to 30 PSI and is specifically designed to give you an accurate reading when you're looking at low PSI pressure. So let's start with the track pump, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pump this tyre, it might be there already, to 10 PSI, only because I like round numbers. So okay, what have we got? Okay, we've got, actually that's exactly 10 PSI. Well, it's as exact as I can make it using a track pump, which has a fairly rudimentary system. I mean, this goes up to 160 PSI, so it's not going to be easy to see fine detail, but that's fine. So that is our tyre, as far as I'm aware, using my track pump, is 10 PSI. Right, let's try a digital tyre pressure gauge. I've got this slightly bigger one out simply because it should be easier to read. I'm just going to put on a tiny adapter. We're not going to lose any air because it fits to a Schrader, not a Presta valve. Right, 0 reading. 10 PSI on that becomes, and there we go, 8.5 PSI. That's a big difference. That's a difference in the advice somewhat. In fact, actually, do you know what? It's gone down to 8 PSI. So from 10 to 8 PSI. Now, that's 20% difference. You might not think it's a big deal, but when you think of it's a 20% change in what you thought your tyre pressure was set at to what it's actually set at. And that's between a track pump and a digital tyre pressure gauge. Now, let's take that adapter off. Let's use this one. This is specifically for low PSI. So this should, without any question, be the most accurate out of the three. So we've inflated it to 10 PSI. What's it going to be? Place your bets. I'll try and angle it so you can see it, but it only shows you the reading while it's actually attached. So let's have a look. We're 10 PSI, we are 6.5 PSI. So, 6.5 PSI, 8, 10. In percentage terms, that's huge. And why is it important? And why I think you should get one of these? If you are playing around with the PSI in your fat bike tyre and you're trying to get specific about what PSI works for you, you're listening to advice on the many wonderful forums about which pressure you should run, all of that is irrelevant if you don't have an accurate reading of your PSI. So I didn't think there'd be that much of a difference. Huge difference from the track pump, which most of us have. These aren't that cheap. I think this was about 30 pounds, GB pounds. But that shows if you're concerned about your tyre PSI, get one of these. Consumer advice smashed out the park. How about that? My goodness, how lucky are you guys? Can you get a BAFTA or a Grammy for an internet show about fat bikes? Can you look that up? Can you see if there's like some sort of application process? We are a shoo-in. This show, shoo-in. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support. If you are able to subscribe, that would be wonderful. But actually, if you can also share it with people that you may think might also be interested, I'd be very grateful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.